Hey, Chef Daddy James here with Chicago Sugar Daddy. Welcome back to Zodiac Bakes. In this episode, we are doing Pisces. So let's have some fun in the kitchen and let Chef Daddy James teach you how to be Sugar Daddy. Pisces are usually represented by two fish. In Greek mythology, represents Aphrodite and Eros escaping and being transformed into two fish being tied together. So I'm thinking that we'll do two fish that are sculpted out of cake. When you're sketching cakes, or a concept for your cakes and everything, it can change even while you're doing it from paper or pad to your final presentation. Pisces sign is also water. I'm thinking it'd be kind of cool to kind of make it look like they're swimming around each other. I use my iPad because I like to use Procreate on my iPad because it has all the different types of features of different types of brush strokes, textures, to help kind of give the feel of in my head of what I want to go for. So I'm thinking I'm going to go with like an orangey, peachy, pink kind of color for one of the fish. And then a green and yellow kind of vibe. So for my cake, I am going to do a quick kind of mock-up of the size of the body for the fishies. That's what I'm calling fishies. So that way I can have an idea of how big that they're going to be on my board. And I personally usually always like to just actually have a general shape, but I actually always just cut just a little bit bigger than the shape I actually drew. The reason why I like to do that is because I'll actually take the actual stencil that I did and place it on the actual board, as opposed to before where I just drew it and put it on there, and be able to get a better feel of how it all will work out. So next what I'm going to do is we're going to carve some cake. And as I stated in our last video, all of our cakes on this Zodiac Bake will be our ube cake, which we're very known for at Chicago Sugar Daddy. Especially our Twisted Ube is our #1 cake seller. It's our ube cake with a coconut filling and a pandan frosting. My partner, also the other owner of Chicago Sugar Daddy, Ryan, he is Filipino. That is why I started doing ube cake, to also represent his culture in the bakery. I also just fell in love with the flavor of ube, and it's purple. So it's different than a lot of stuff you have in the States where they're like vanilla or chocolate. I'm like, ube, it's purple, so it's something that's different, you know? We do a few authentic Filipino desserts in the shop as well, but I like to take the Filipino flavors and kind of take them and bring them into a different light, or try and take them and incorporate them into a different recipe than that what is traditionally done in the Philippines. So like for example, we have one of our other popular items is ube white chocolate coconut cookie. So what I'm gonna do is I'm cutting out a couple extra pieces just to be safe. I don't anticipate this cake being very big. So I'm cutting out a general, all the cakes will be the same size, and then what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to actually carve away and shape the fish shape out of them. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start to assemble our little fishies. Maybe we should give our fishies names. Leave a comment down below what you think, what you would name your fishies. So, but first, before I'm going to build them, I'm going to stack them and kind of get a rough idea of how tall we were looking at the fishies. But I think this is actually a pretty decent size, because I'm going to carve them and give it a little bit more of a shape. Should always have the blade away from you. never ever carve a cake towards you. Anytime doing cakes like this, things always look a little rough before they start looking really good. So I'm thinking I might actually do the general body out of the cake. And I'm thinking I might make the tail and the head out of cake pop. It'll give me a little bit more pliable dough to work with, and I can shape it a little bit easier. Make some cake pop mixture, or cake paste in this case. So we're just gonna take some cake scraps and just mix it with some buttercream so we get a nice little Play-Doh consistency. I actually did this on a mammoth cake once to help give me the shape of the horn of the mammoth. Basically all it pretty much is to make cake pops, and in this case, cake paste, is you just take your cake scraps and buttercream and you just mix it together so you get a nice little paste about it. But you want to make sure you don't have too much buttercream, because if you have too much buttercream, it won't stick together properly. It'll be really oily and sticky. So it's usually kind of out of like a 1-to-4 ratio, so almost like 4 parts to 1 part buttercream. 4 parts cake to 1 part buttercream. And then go ahead and we're just going to fill our cake up with our vanilla Swiss buttercream. I like using Swiss buttercream because it's very stable. We're just going to take our cake pop, or in this case, like I said, cake paste, and we're just going to start using it to shape our fishies. To entirely do the tail part of the fish, because I want to be able to have a lot of movement in the tail and be able to have a nice fin part to the tail. So I'm going to do that all out of fondant, because I won't be able to get that movement if I were to do it out of cake pops. It's almost like clay. It's very moldable and it sticks really well to the cake itself. So there's one of my fish, and we'll start working on the second one. Alright, so now that we've got those covered, I'm going to go ahead and do a quick rum coat and buttercream, because I want them to have a nice smooth buttercream look on the outside, so that way I can apply our fondant. And then I'm going to go ahead and cover the other one, and we're going to put these guys in the freezer for about a half hour. I shall call you Ooh, and the other one shall be called Bae. All together, you shall be known as Ube. Hey everybody who's watching, leave a comment below and let me know what you would name your fish if you were making this cake at home. Because I'm torn between Ooh and Bae for my fish's names, which all together would be Ube or Yin and Yang. Let me know what you want to call your fishies. So I'm covering the fish in a solid piece of fondant, and then we're going to cover the fondant with scales so that the fondant scales have something better to stick to than just the buttercream. But first, before we do that, we will transfer our fish over to our bigger board. And I'm only going to do one at a time, and then I'm going to cover that one in fondant. Definitely working in sections when it comes to weird shapes, so that way you have just little bits to work with. sprinkle little bits of fondant at a time, just so that way I can get really nice thin pieces of fondant. Making sure I'm covering the table and the fondant and cornstarch so that it is not sticking to either the rolling pin and or the table. So I'm rolling this thinner than what I would normally do to cover the cake in fondant. So I want it to be thin, probably, I don't know, somewhere between an 1/8 and a 1/6 of an inch, I guess I would have to guess. And then we're just gonna go ahead and cut out our scales. And that's the really cool thing about these cutters is the fact that they are able to cut out multiples and start applying my scales. And I'm just gonna go ahead and cover the whole body with the glue, edible glue, just to kind of start with. Just that way I can just keep applying the scales without having to go back time and time again. The round part of the fish's scales go towards the back of the fish. I'm gonna start at the back because they're overlapping each other. So by starting at the back, I'm able to overlap them properly. If they start at the front, I'm not gonna be able to get that overlap look of what is typically on a scale. So I'm just gonna start at the back. And I'm okay with the excess kind of hanging over because it's gonna give me coverage down at the bottom of scales. And then once I finish the scales, placing them, I'm going to go back through and I'm going to cut the little bits that are all on the bottom of the board. I'm going to go through and just cut them all off. Fish number 1 is scaled. Go ahead and put some little lips on our fish, both roughly the same size for both fish. I'm going to cut them the same length, and then I'm going to cut them in half, point them up on the ends, and then I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more glue. And like I said, you know, this fish has been through the ringer and got caught on the fisherman's hook and got ripped up, but that's okay. Plastic surgery right here on the way. And bada bing, look. Whole new set of lips. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go and make a big circle. First, kind of see if it'll work, which it does. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna place it over the whole fish. And I'm gonna start at the bottom first. And I'm gonna work it back towards the scale. And I'm just gonna take and start tucking it under. And then as you can kind of see, I've got a little extra here in the back. But I'm not gonna completely and utterly get rid of all of it because fish have that little bit of extra. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna cut some of it away. I'm pulling it and stretching it out because I want to roll it under. I'm using this to kind of help tuck in, make it a little bit more round and smooth. What I'm going to go ahead and do is kind of find the center and go ahead and just make little indentations of where I'm going to put some eyes later on. That's kind of like why I wanted to do this channel was I really like astrology, and kind of doing this channel is a way to try to do new things. And I've never made fish before. I've never sculpted a fish before. And along the way we can learn stuff together. Making a better rounded shape, but I'm also kind of just making sure that the little roll bits are tucked in. We're gonna find the center, And we're just gonna go ahead and give it 2 dots again, indentations for where we're gonna put the eyes. Alright, so now what I'm gonna do really quick is I'm just gonna take some fondant and we're gonna make some tails really quick. Just kind of rolling it into an icicle shape. And then all I'm gonna do is, flat as my fingers will allow me to, and then I'm just gonna kind of organically, naturally shape it out. Roll it out thin, and then I'm just gonna bring it together. The reason why I have it pointier on one side and fatter on the other is the side where I've got more is the thicker part of the tail, and the side that's got less would be where I will adhere it to the back of the fish so that there's less going on. But also by having it at different points, it will allow me to kind of break up the tail. Well, let's go ahead and put this guy on, but we're looking a little bit tight here on space. So, have a little bit of difficulty trying to color and add detail. So I think we're gonna go ahead and change the board real quick. All right, let's go grab a new board. All right, let's see. I've got a 16-inch board here. We're gonna go ahead and just transfer over this stuff. So we're gonna start with the fish with no tail. We're gonna grab a clean spatula. And we're just gonna very carefully do some cake surgery here, people. I'm just gonna move fish number 2. I'm just gonna bring them in a little closer to the heads to each other. That way we have more room to apply and free out their tails. And reattach. Sometimes you have to pivot. And you gotta figure out a collusion. Collusion. Okay. Instead of a solution, it's a cake, and a solution, it's a collusion. That's what I say in my head all the time. I've never said the word out loud. Alright, now that we've got our tails on, just gonna do a little quick for the fins. Super quick. So that way we can go ahead and get some color on these guys. So we're just gonna take a leaf impression, and we're just gonna go ahead and use that to help give our fin a little bit more impression for the fish. Giving them a little bit of volume and sticking them differently. We'll give it Alright. So for this guy, I am gonna do some watercoloring, aka food coloring mixed with high-proof vodka. So basically, we just take some high-proof vodka and gel colors, and you just mix it. That is what we're doing here. And the reason why I'm doing it like this, because as I apply the colors, they will bleed into each other from the vodka. And that is what I'm wanting to go for. I'm wanting them to blend and kind of give it that mystical kind of vibe to the fish themselves. Little blacks to help darken it up. So what I'm doing is I'm applying the color with the black brush, but then I am helping to kind of spread it out with the other brush. So that way it doesn't just automatically sit in one spot and clump up. pink. Get it nice and mixed up. So yeah, as you can kind of see, the colors they blend and they start to make their own colors. And still also are defined, some parts have their own color of the pink or the yellow or the orange. You can also just do clear vodka if you wanted to, but the yellow is going to help to kind of fill in the white bits that didn't get fully coated. Dish number 2, y'all. We're going to be doing blue, purple, and green. A little bit of Fran black. Base color is going to be blue, so we're going to do a nice light blue. I will add a little bit of black too, just to kind of darken it just a little bit. I'm going to go and, as you can see, they nicely bleed into each other, and you get that nice watercolor effect happening as the vodka bleeds down and dries and evaporates. Now we're going to move on to green. And that's kind of why I've also not been changing the brush in between each one, because as you can see from when I transitioned from the blue to the purple, I did one color and then I blended into doing purple. Now since I'm going from purple to green, it's going to then make another color. Now we're going to add our eyes to our fish, aka some soul to our fish. So we're just putting a little bit of glue in there. Our first color, they're just little chocolate pearls that I've first covered in gold. And then I'm going to paint over with gold powder mixed with high proof vodka. Now we're going to add our water. We're going to do a fun little thing different. I'm going to warm up my buttercream a little bit. Not melted, but soft. It needs to be meringue consistency, I guess. I'm doing white first, and I literally just take the buttercream and just dab it on to my board. And I'm not so worried that it's getting on the fish because this is our water. And we're going to add in some blue. And then we're just going to mix it around with the same brush. And we're just going to start going back over it. So I did this for a dinosaur cake for one of my best friend's kid's birthday. So I did it to build the layers of, from like dirt to sand to clay to grass, which there's a video actually of me doing that cake on our Instagram at chicago.sugardaddy. So now that I've got that generally covered, I'm going to take the smaller brush and we're just going to push it right up to the edges. And then to kind of help give it a little bit of wave, you're able to just kind of like plop them down with the big brush. And it helps to kind of give like nice waves all the way around. And you just flick it around. And by using the brush too, you can pull it in direction to kind of make it look like the fish are in a never-ending circle. Just clean up the edge of the board a little bit. Add some orange sparkle. So we're gonna add some green sparkle to cake number 2. And here's my final Pisces cake. Thanks for watching my Zodiac Bakes, and for all you fiery Aries out there just like this daddy, subscribe to see what's next.